Hello and welcome to Gareth Icke Tonight. Small boat crossings of illegal immigrants into England have now hit 50,000 since Labour took control of the UK with a mandate to, in their words, smash the gangs. That's an unvetted male migrant entering the now borderless nation every 11 seconds. Completely unsustainable numbers, even for the most fluoride calcified refugees welcome placard waver. It's not sustainable because it isn't meant to be. People are slowly waking up to the fact that none of this is happening organically and none of it is down to government incompetence. Yes, Starmer, Lammy, Miliband, Reeves and the rest of the Labour front bench are a gaggle of ignoramuses, but it isn't them that ultimately make the decisions. That role falls to the permanent government, those whose names you don't hear and faces you don't see on the 10 o'clock news. The high-ranking civil servants maintain their roles no matter what colour rosette has its name above the door of Downing Street. That's why it's an irrelevance what government the people elect, whether it be Tories saying stop the boats or Labour claiming they will smash the gangs. Nothing changes for the better and the number of people entering the country goes up. The hardest to fathom realisation that growing numbers of people are awaking to is that the traffickers aren't in fact the Russians or the Chinese, as the establishment media would have you believe. It isn't even the gangs that are putting migrant men into dinghies in northern France. Sure, the gangs are playing their role, but they're facilitators, not instigators. Even at the most basic level, because it goes a lot deeper than this, but even at the most basic level, if the government wasn't housing the boat riders in hotels and now social housing, then the incentive wouldn't be there to get in the boat in the first place. The UK government are in fact the traffickers and the gangs are merely a cog in that very well-greased machine. The intentional destruction of this nation and many other nations in the West have many cogs and it infiltrates every single aspect of our daily lives. So in recent weeks, I've started looking at the West, but more specifically the UK, through the lens of someone that wants to destroy it. What would I do? What would I attack? Who would I attack? Well, I'd attack the natives for a start. Through mass unfiltered immigration, I would change demographics and community cohesion, and I would attack the natives for resisting. I would marginalise, disenfranchise, and demoralise them. I'd make their lives miserable, joyless, void of purpose and meaning. I would attack their communities, their places of social interaction, the high street, the pub. I'd attack them financially through cost of living and by cutting funding to the most vulnerable of them. I'd defund community programs, particularly for the youth. You see, the natives are the ones in any nation that are going to be the most willing to fight for it. They have a connection to the land, to the history, to the culture. I'd want to take away their desire to fight by making them feel like there's nothing left to fight for. I'd change the culture of the nation through in part immigration and pandering to other cultures over that of the nation. But I'd also do it in the classroom and at the earliest opportunity. Got to get them young. Make the next generations, the adults of tomorrow, feel guilty for their heritage, guilty for their history, and even guilty for the colour of their skin. Tell them at every opportunity that they're privileged, even when in many cases that couldn't be further from the truth. Because why would anyone fight to save something they've been conditioned to be ashamed of? I'd attack individual demographics and set them against each other so as to negate any future unity among the masses. I'd set young against old, men against women, black against white, straight against gay. I'd attack reality. 2 + 2 = 5, and women have penises. I'd attack masculinity because masculinity says no to my destructive ideas. I'd attack women's only spaces to create fear, children's spaces to create even more fear, and chaos. Chaos, always chaos, because people want order out of the chaos, and I can offer them that if they just hand me what little freedoms they have left in exchange. Another great way to create fear, chaos, and financial hardship, and therefore dependence, is war. I'd consistently pick fights with other nations, big, scary, powerful nations like, China, Russia. I'd want lots of war, but only really for now, the perception of it. So maybe a Cold War of sorts, an endless one that's always just on the verge of kicking off, so I can terrify the population into accepting surveillance and increased military spending rather than, spending the people's money on the people. I'd attack the food supply by making food production unsustainable, whether it be financially or through red tape. I'd make feeding the nation even more difficult. Actually, and I don't know if anyone's ever thought of this, I would pay farmers not to produce food. It's a mad idea, isn't it? I know. This would create scarcity, which drives up prices, further impoverishing the people and creating state dependence. You can eat, but only if you do as we say. Only if you're up to date with your boosters and your digital ID that we've introduced to combat the mass immigration we've facilitated says your social credit score is good little citizen enough for you to have some cricket-based burgers. I'd buy up farmland and cover it in useless solar panels using billions of pounds of the now skint taxpayers' money. I'd blow up coal-powered power stations, close collieries, block gas drilling licenses, and instead insist that the nation be reliant on useless and massively taxpayer-subsidized renewable energy. I'd make travel unaffordable because I wouldn't want people seeing other areas of the nation and twigging that this is being done everywhere and not by accident. And that brings me to the final most important part of my plan to destroy the nation. I would attack freedom of speech. I would make speaking the truth a crime. I'd make thinking the truth a crime. And I would make seeing the truth impossible. I'd introduce legislation to ban freedom of speech and to ban content that I don't want the public to see from their gaze. I'd frame it as protecting the people, of course. I'd say it's to protect the kids or to protect minorities from hate speech. But of course, that would simply be the sales pitch to get the legislation over the line, because I care not for the kids and I care not for minorities and anyone else for that matter. I care about achieving the goal of destroying the nation. And a major hindrance to me enacting the many points I've listed would be the exposure of the plan. That is why I would so aggressively attack, demonize, and censor those exposing me. Now, this is just me riffing. This is what I'd do if my desire was to destroy the United Kingdom. Any connections between my hypothetical plan and the actual realities of the UK's domestic policy are completely coincidental, of course.